Welcome to the Retro Game Club Podcast, Season 6, Episode 11, which is also Episode 174. It is 9 a.m. on Saturday where I am, Rob, and it is 6 p.m. in Chicago where Hugh is. How's it going?
It's going pretty good. It's here it is, 6 p.m. on a Friday night. I guess when I was younger, I'd be looking forward to plans of some sort, but now I'm just looking forward to sleeping.
Yes, and not working tomorrow. But rest assured, tomorrow happens, though. I'm in the future, so you know tomorrow happens.
Yeah. You know, that was the funny thing about Y2K is I was working for a software company at the time, and I was 99.9% sure nothing bad was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So my wife and I, she was not even my fiancée yet. We were just dating. We drove down to New Orleans for the turn of the millennium. Somehow, like 3 days before the turn of the millennium, we got a hotel room in New Orleans, and not motel stab you in your sleep. This was like a nice hotel.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how. Maybe there's a last minute cancellation. I don't know. But you know, she not being a technical person I wouldn't say she wasn't worried about it, but she was, a little uneasy.
Yeah.
I said, yeah, but you remember, it's gonna roll over in like Australia, in Japan, in China, and Germany, and UK. All these countries are gonna roll over first. And if you don't hear about planes dropping out of the sky in Australia, everything's cool.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, maybe that's why the late 90s were so great. Like, everyone was so worried, like, they had to get all the good stuff in, and then when nothing happened, it was just all downhill from there.
Yeah, I would say things have... It's hard because a lot of this is, like, age bias, like, if when you were, like, 25, that was, like, the best time to ever be alive, of course, or 21 or whatever year, so, of course, it is downhill, but I feel like I would be happy kind of like in a world of just like technology and culture of 1999. I think I'd be all right with that.
Yeah, me too. That's why we do a retro podcast about that time, huh?
Yeah, the cars of the late 90s were not particularly cool looking. I think we have better looking cars now. I think that's a mild, very small trade-off.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's been, we just launched the GameWorks episode, which was fun. We did the PC Engine Effects episode, and probably one before then, so we haven't recorded in a while.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I think I referenced both of those episodes in previous episodes, assuming that they were already out.
Yeah, so everyone has to go back and listen to all those. But what have you been up to since, I don't even know, the last time we talked in late April, something like that?
April, probably, something like that, at least a month ago. Let's see, it's funny because some of this stuff is like old news now. In my own I don't have any like personal life news. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I decided to nope out of that game because it's just not very good. It starts off all right. Like I was kind of optimistic at the beginning because it's got like this open world mechanic. You go around and explore, but then what you find is that there's like 5 regions, and each region is like the exact same quests as the previous region. Like it's all like you have to do find the Chocobo quest, and then here's this thing where you play a bunch of mini games. Really, it's the mini games. Mm-hmm. The mini games are excessive and generally bad. Like I was sort of drafting. Like I was thinking of doing an article about it, but I'm probably not going to now. Like, did you play Muppets Party Cruise? You ever played that game?
No, but you've talked about it before, so I've seen it on YouTube quite a bit.
It's great, but anyhow, like the Muppets Party Cruise game, where you throw fish into a toilet, is like 100 times better than the best minigame in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Not even close. Nice. So I'm just like, you know what? I'm not going to play the next installment. I like the first. I mean, the first one had a little bit of these annoying features, but the setting was really good.
Yeah, you liked Final Fantasy Remake.
I did, yeah, and I really liked the Midgar setting. That's probably like that maybe is what got me through that game. Mm-hmm. But this one, yeah, it's just so annoying. I mean, I'm pretty far in, but I got to this part where, like, this is just the dumbest, most nitpicking complaint about a game, but it's a good summary of why I gave up on this game. So late in the game, you're in this dungeon and you're playing as Kate Sith, the cat that is riding the I want to call him Muggle. That's Harry Potter. You know what I'm talking about? He's on the big inflatable guy.
Yeah.
And he has to like open a series of switches to help Aerith and Barrett get out of this dungeon. Okay. But he can't just hit the switches. He can only throw a box at the switches. So the Mog that he's on top of has this like throwing box mechanic that doesn't really work very well, that you have to use to hit the switches. And at one point, you have to be on like the third floor of this dungeon, and you have to throw a box down to the first floor to hit a switch. All right?
Mm-hmm.
That all makes sense. Aerith and Barrett are standing right next to the switch, right? They're like standing directly next to it. And your character, what you remember Kate Sith, what's his weapon in the game?
Oh, I can't remember.
It's a megaphone. So he's up on the third floor, he has a megaphone, and he needs to hit a switch on the first floor that two people are standing next to. And the only thing you can possibly come up with is try and aim a box at it. Not just get on the megaphone and yell, "Hey, hit that switch, you bozos."
Exactly, yeah.
Right? But that's just it. Like, it's just this sort of weird design that they came up with for all these puzzles that, you know, it's... Like, video game logic can be weird. Like, you have to solve puzzles in odd ways. And I know, like, you like a lot of the Sierra games, and a lot of those have just bizarre, you know, glue these three random things together kind of puzzles.
Yeah.
But this, to me, this lost me. I'm like, this is just too stupid to keep playing. Like, I'm done. So I played Super Mario RPG Remake instead. So
Did you finish that one?
Oh, yeah. I put it on the easiest setting, which... There's really just two settings. It's like normal and easy. And easy is like... I mean, it's easy. I'll just say that. Like, you're not going to have any challenge with any of the battles. So it's good if you just kind of want to play through and do the story, which is kind of what I wanted to do. I really wasn't in the mood to grind up a bunch of levels. But that got me really excited about the recent Paper Mario Thousand Year Door remake, which at this point I have started. I'm a couple hours in. It's also really, really good. That's about it. If you haven't played either of those, you haven't played Mario RPG or
no, I have no interest
Mario.
in those. No.
Yeah.
I've played enough Mario games where the, you know, platformers are enough for me. I didn't even play Wonder because I was like, I feel like I just played some Mario games. Why do I need this? Even though I know it's great and I'll play it and I'll love it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, these Super Mario it was really developed by Square. So it's like it's like Solstice for NES, but with like a Final Fantasy type of battle mechanic. If that makes sense. And Paper Mario doesn't really... The one annoying thing on Paper Mario is that Mario really can't jump in that game. I mean, he can jump, but he doesn't jump like you know, he jumps like Donkey Kong Mario, not like Mario.
Yeah, like in Mario Brothers, not Super Mario Brothers. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's all right. It's still a fun game. I like it a lot. I didn't put this in news, but I keep having like Raspberry Pis that I decide to just reformat. I just saw that RISC OS, so this is a very old operating system. It's from the 90s. Been ported to work on Raspberry Pi now. Never used this OS, so I'm thinking my one unused Raspberry Pi 2 is probably going to end up becoming a RISC OS PC eventually, just so I have something new to try.
Yeah, that's great. That is great.
So that's fun. No, not gaming related at all. But gaming related, I just saw that they put Super Mario Land on the Switch Online.
Yeah.
So I tried that out. This is kind of like a... Nostalgia is very rose-colored. Like, if you'd asked me like 2 weeks ago, I would have said it's a great, you know, awesome game. Playing it now, it kind of feels like a Mario fan game. You know, the controls are a little, I don't know, a little imprecise, for lack of a better term.
Gravity is weird. Gravity is weird in that game.
Gravity is very weird. The fireballs don't work like you expect either.
Because they're not fireballs.
Oh, right. They work like a Super Ball, you know, like the kind of thing you try and launch over your house when you're a kid.
Yes.
They work like one of those. The sequel, which is a legit good game, fixed all that. But again, for the time, it was probably really impressive. Like I was trying to put myself back in like, you know, 1989 mindset, and by 1989, like this is a launch title for Game Boy standards. It's a pretty good game.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't know the ratio of main sprite to the screen yet, right? So they tried to keep it the
Yeah.
same as a TV, and it just didn't work. But it still has possibly the best Mario music, debatably,
Okay.
in the top
Debatably, yeah.
two or three. Yeah,
It is very good, yeah. For sure.
I do like that game though.
Yeah, I mean, I played it. It's only like 4 stages. I played through it, and because now you have rewind or whatever on the
Yeah,
Switch, so
yeah,
you get through that game pretty quickly too if you use rewind.
yeah.
It's like, yeah, this is. I mean, it's good. It's not. I had again just a memory of it being like as good as the mainline Mario games.
No,
and
God,
that's
no.
clearly not the case.
Not even close. Yeah.
No. And you haven't been up to anything interesting, so we'll just move on to
Yeah,
news.
yeah, I've been up to nothing. Yeah. Speaking of which, I should mention to everyone that yes, I'm in a new room here in our bedroom right now, since we're in a very tiny house here, and there is no soundproofing yet, so it's pretty echoey. And all of my stuff is still in the middle of the Pacific, so I'm on this cheap Rode microphone, just sitting on a desk. So who knows how I sound? But it is also raining cats and dogs out there right now, and I'm right next to a very thin window, and also there's construction across the street. Like
You
every
mean it's raining dingoes and koalas?
Yes, that's right. Yes, and so all of that will be in this recording. But yeah, we're finally pretty much settled here. Kids are in school. Well, it's Saturday, so they're not in school, but they are enrolled in school, and yeah, actually start working again on Monday. And it was really stressful getting here, but I think the most difficult thing was to move my eBay and Google addresses to Australia. Specifically eBay. Did you know you cannot change your country in eBay? You have to create a whole new account.
Yeah, I would have assumed you had to create a new account, I guess.
That's nuts.
It's probably... Yeah, I mean, eBay was created in, like, 96 or something. I bet there's a lot of, like, core design issues in eBay because it was old and they weren't thinking about these kind of problems yet.
Oh, 100%, yeah. So that was strange. So I'm back to 0 stars on eBay, even though I haven't used it yet. And really, Gumtree, we'll get into that later, is what you want here. But, and then, so I started out in Detroit, and I in my carry-on, since I wanted to be able to game here and not pay duty tax on literally shipping everything, my carry-on had my work laptop, my personal laptop, my Steam Deck, Analog Pocket, and Switch. And in Detroit, they didn't even make me open up my bags. They had modern X-ray things that could see everything in there, and everything was fine. LAX, not only is it the worst set up airport, where you have to walk outside and uphill to get from domestic to international. And I've done that quite a bit, and it's a nightmare, even without kids and most of your belongings with you. Getting through security there. I also had, remember, USB, cables and power adapters for all of these things. Plus, most of those adapters are 110 volt by 240 volts, so all I needed was the different end to put on them to work in Australia.
Yeah.
So I had all that in my bag, and they once the bag went through the X-ray machine, I was already through security, so they kind of held up the bag and they're like, "Whose is this?" So I walked up to them. She pulled out every single thing from the bag, which I had packed in a certain way that made it fit. It was like a Tetris situation. And she looked with her eyes, examined everything. And then she put most of the things back in there and put it back through the X-ray machine again, even though she saw everything. So, and then just left it all, obviously, left it for me to fill back
to deal with later.
Yes.
They probably thought you were a spy or something.
Exactly, yeah. Then they realize I'm just a gaming dork. But
she's like, normally people with this much electronics are going to Japan. What's going on?
Exactly.
That's what you're suspicious
Yes.
about, probably.
Exactly, yeah. And so let's see. Malls here are alive and doing very well. It's pretty impressive, and it's like living in nostalgia. So I'm very down with that. And what else? I listened to that Making of Prince of Persia audiobook. It is absolutely fantastic. It's read by Mechner, and he has, that soothing voice, and he just seems like the nicest man alive. And he, we all know he did Karateka, however you'd like to pronounce it, that's how I pronounce it, when he was really young, and then he went on to this one, I think during and after college. And, it just kind of made me think that, maybe if I didn't party from like age 15 to age 30, I would have created a few more things. Maybe I could have learned like assembler and C and had a few other things, but also I did have a lot of fun. So there's that. I beat Daxter on PSP. I would highly recommend it. I would call it a top 5 PSP game, and it's a pretty good platformer. Has great music and sound and graphics, and I haven't played any of the Jack games that made me want to play them, so I would highly recommend it. I moved on to, have you heard of Mini Shoot Adventure?
Nope.
It is a Legend of Zelda-like, but you are it's a top-down shooter. And it's not a bullet hell or anything like that. It's more of a open world, literally like the first Legend of Zelda game. It is beautiful. It plays flawlessly. It feels so good. The game control, it is so charming. This is my game of the year so far. I can't recommend this game enough. And even the second screen you go to is the first Legend of Zelda screen. So it knows what it's doing. Seriously, like, if you buy any 2024 game, this should be it. Mini Shoot Adventure. And I beat it. It is a gem. Just buy it. If you have Steam.
If you have Steam, yeah.
I don't know if it's on... it'd be a perfect Switch game, so I don't know if it's on anything else yet.
Yeah, I mean, I have Steam. I just don't ever really use it.
And then about a week ago, I forget if I was still in a hotel because we had to empty our house. So even before we moved, we were in a hotel for 4 days in Detroit. And then we had to fill this house because it had no furniture. So we were in an Airbnb for 2 weeks too. But somewhere in that time, I forget which location I was at, the Xbox 360 store had a crazy sale for so many 99-cent games. The store, I guess, is closing in June. So you'll be able to download stuff for a long time, but not buy stuff. So I bought like 30 games for 99 cents or less. I don't have that list in front of me, but there are a lot of good games in there. So I was pretty impressed with myself because it was only like a 1 or 2 day sale.
Yeah, I've done that a few times. Like back, the Switch at some point changed their policy where you can't sell games for 99 cents on the Switch anymore. Nintendo set like a minimum price of like $4.99 or something.
Because it was becoming worse than the Wii for shovelware.
Well, yeah, but there were a few times where I just bought, or I would buy like a dozen games for, 20 to 99 cents a piece, and some of them are all right. Was it Saturday Morning RPG? Like, that was a 99-cent game, and
It's a good game. Yeah.
Yeah, it's 2 hours long or something. It's not like, it's had a decent soundtrack. It was kind of a fun little battle system. And then I bought some other stuff that, yeah, this is kind of shovelware, but it cost me 19 cents, so whatever.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
In the old days, you'd throw a quarter in an arcade machine, like nothing. So
yeah, and play for 10 seconds. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then just 2 things I wanted to mention that isn't about me and really isn't news, but since we talk about it so much, King's Quest turned 40 on May 10th. So we did a King's Quest episode, so any listener that's interested in that should definitely go back and listen to that. And did you see this Hudson Soft 50th anniversary event?
I did not, but I think this is one of these sites that doesn't work with an ad blocker.
Probably, yeah. Your CPU might go to 100% if you go to it. Your heatsink might melt.
No, because I'm using a network ad blocker, so it's more like the page is just like, I can't load.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, and it's a small number of pages that are just outright will not load at all if you have a network ad blocker, and I think this is one of them.
Okay. Well,
I will say this, though. Browsing weather.com is a delight with a network ad blocker.
that's funny.
Like,
Yeah, that one.
You just see the weather.
They go overboard on that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it looked cool. I mean, they had a lot of the original Hudson Soft people, some of the East and Bomberman people were there. And I'm trying to think who else was there. There's probably like 5 people, but there were no video cameras. Jeez, I am old. You weren't allowed to video anything. Not that anyone would have a video camera on their shoulder. So
like a high A camera.
Exactly.
High
yes.
A camera.
Yeah. So I hope some footage of that somehow comes out because I would definitely like to see it. But it has been about 25 minutes and we haven't podcast yet.
Yeah, and I was actually going to mention, like, I was this is totally off topic, but like I really desperately need to build a new PC. The one I'm using is like 10 years old. And I was going to do like a mini ITX build because my current PC is also like a mini ITX because I don't have a big graphics card, and I don't need one. But it's been so long since I built a PC that I don't trust that I'm actually getting the right parts anymore. So like I went to like Newegg and PC Part Picker, but I'm still not confident that I actually have picked parts that work together at this point. So do you think we have any listeners that build like mini ITX PCs all the time?
Probably. I used to until recently.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't for like 10 years. So I think I need to get a recommendation on my parts list to make sure I'm actually building something that will work.
Well, I think people should email at retrogameclub.net, and also definitely go with a new AMD chip, because if you don't have a dedicated GPU, a discrete one, at this point the very new chips are pretty comparable. I mean, you look at the Steam Deck, that's all that is, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at like, for me, it's always like I start with the case first.
Yeah.
And there's a particular, like, I really want like silent case. So I'm looking at this like it's Fractal Nano is the name of the case.
I know that one. Yeah.
You know that one? Okay. Yeah, I haven't even. Hopefully they still sell them. I mean, the website still advertises them. But it's like something like that because it's low, very, very quiet. I mean, you got to kind of buy quiet fans, of course. Mm-hmm. And it looks cool, and it can fit. It doesn't fit as many drives as I would like, but I can live with that because hard drives are just so insanely large now.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't need like 2 data drives because I can get a 6 or 8 terabyte hard drive for almost nothing. Mm-hmm. Relatively, almost nothing.
Yeah.
Compared to, they're cheaper than like a 500 meg hard drive in the 90s.
So you're not going to go for a Z80?
No, I'm not. It's a good lead-in, though.
And that was the first time we've ever had a segue, I think. Right?
Did you buy a Z80 computer recently?
I did. The Naboo.
Yeah, that's it.
That Canadian one, yeah. I actually, I got rid of it. It did not make the cut to ship. So I sold that one for what I bought it for. Maybe a few bucks cheaper. I never even opened it. Yeah, I guess we're in the news part now, right? Did that happen?
Yeah, so Z80 discontinued by the time this episode will probably go live, right around then.
Yeah, June 14th. So buy them in bulk. Get them while you can.
Yeah, I assume they were probably used in some... I have an old friend who does, like... he builds, like, custom testing equipment for companies. Like, you have some, medical device or something you need tested. He runs a company that builds devices to test your device. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And all that stuff is ancient, man. I'm sure if I asked him if he had something that, some board or something that was controlled by Z80, he would have one.
Yeah.
I mean, Look, probably the Boeing planes have Z80s in them. Like, I don't even know. Like,
But I mean, you could still. I don't see 6502s going away anytime soon. I feel like those are still in everything.
yeah, I think they're still pretty common. I don't know if like the NES on a chip technologies made the 6502 actually obsolete or not, but
True. Yeah. True.
it just depends. I figure it's all for like custom manufacturing and custom, not custom, but types of machines that we're not really thinking about.
And like toys, like little cheap toys. Like, like
well,
almost
there you go.
Happy Meal type stuff. But yeah, so
Like the little
Z80s.
Happy Meal toy. Yeah, the Happy Meal's probably not a Z80, but that would be. I'm wondering. It's probably too. It's something even cheaper than that, I'm sure.
Yeah. But yeah, so get in those Z80s. And then what else? We have this open source Summer Kart 64, which is like an EverDrive 64 for the Nintendo 64, a flash cart, but you could print it yourself or buy one.
Yes, I see someone selling them for like $108 if you don't want to make it yourself.
Yup, with a really nice case. And I almost got one of those, but I stopped myself. Like, I don't play my, the one I already have enough. So these do look really nice.
You're probably not. I mean, I would only get it if I was going to take up like Nintendo 64 dev.
That's what this has over the other ones for sure. And this also has 64DD hardware emulation, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, if you're emulating those games. I only have ever bought a flash drive. I bought an EverDrive, and it was just to test games on original hardware, to test stuff I wrote.
Yep. What else do we have here? Oh, jeez.
I don't know who added this, but
yeah, I did. It was probably a late night ad. There's a Dance Dance Revolution Classic Mini.
that you don't dance on, you use your hands, it looks like.
Yes, you could get this in September for $315.
No. All right, let's...
Yeah, I wonder how the license for the music works for these. Or how your hand cramping will work. Anyway.
Do not want. That's all I know.
Yeah. Something that might have a Z80 in it. The 7-Eleven Slurpee Cup that could play Tetris.
Yeah, so I assume only scalpers got this, right?
Probably, because it's sold out. I hope they still have them. Let's look on eBay. Let's see what the prices for these are.
Oh, $50.
What was your guess?
My guess was 50.
For a new one, 105, 103, 114.
Wow.
Used is 80. So scalpers, they got in. But
I mean, in all fairness, there's probably only like 1 million of these in circulation.
Let's see how many sold, though. One sold for 120, 124, 99.
Oh.
Yeah, there's some sold. There's about one sold a day. So it's not the hottest item. But it still makes me sad that scalpers are making money.
So I went to the 7-Eleven website. I don't have a 7-Eleven that close to me. No, wait. Do I? No, I don't. Did you know they have an unlimited free delivery promotion?
That's amazing.
It says, enjoy exclusive deals and unlimited free delivery with 7NOW Gold Pass. Learn more. Who's delivering? Who's getting 7-Eleven delivered, man?
On a hot day, you need your Slurpee and your churro.
It says first 30 days free, only $6.95 a month. Additional, look, this is such a scam. Additional fees may apply for orders under $10. Okay, well, so they don't want you to just buy like a Slurpee with your $6.95 a month. Perks are no small basket fees. What's a small basket fee?
And that seems like something that would be under $10. So I don't know what that means.
Double reward points, or whatever. Free product on every order. Okay. I'm actually kind of, what? That's fascinating to me that 7-Eleven is now in the unlimited food delivery
Yeah,
business.
can you please do this? You've got
So you
to
don't
do
have, you have 7-Elevens. They're everywhere, right?
I don't know if they do that in Australia, but I might do this. Oh, no, I don't know if they do this promotion. I'm surrounded by 7-Elevens here because it's a Japanese company.
Oh, right. So I'm looking at like stuff they can deliver, like the barbecue bacon cheeseburger roller. Sorry. So it's a hamburger in hot dog form. Limited time only. Glazed cheesy barbecue meatballs.
I feel like there's a new podcast here. Just sampling all this stuff.
I don't know if I could finish any of the items I'm looking at right now. Korean barbecue taquito. That's like a lot of different cultures all. It's like 3 cultures rolled together.
Wow.
Interesting. Well, if anyone listeners subscribe to the 7-Eleven Gold Pass with unlimited delivery, please let us know.
Yes.
I guess if you like needed to get coffee delivered at your work all the time, but that'd be under $10. That's additional fees.
Unless it was like, you did it a few times a week for a meeting, so there's like 10 of you.
Yeah, I'm thinking even with like recent inflation, it's hard to get over $10 worth of food at 7-Eleven.
Yeah, it's kind of like Taco Bell.
It's tough. All right, Nintendo 64 controller that can play the entire Game Boy library.
Game Boy Advance library, too.
Game Boy Advance library, geez.
This is a pretty looking thing.
Is this a hardware mod of some kind?
Yeah, it's a real N64 with a real innards of a Game Boy Advance, and it looks very nice, and it charges by USB-C. Yeah, I don't know what you'd use the analog stick for. That's just kind of sticking out in your face.
Yeah. This, to me, is another let's ruin 2 perfectly good things project.
Exactly. Like, I kind of feel like if you have a Game Boy Advance that has a broken case and maybe some broken buttons and stuff, and you have, I don't know, I guess that wouldn't work on the controller side because you would need everything on the controller to work. So, yeah I guess that doesn't work. But this does.
I think it's a cool, I put it like cool intellectual exercise, but.
What I like is that the cartridge sticks into the Rumble Pack port. The memory.
That's probably how this idea started.
Yes.
This dude was sitting there bored one day. He had like a Game Boy cartridge and a N64 on his desk. He's like, "Do these fit?"
Yeah. What else? Oh, yeah. Something I pre-ordered yesterday. Nintendo World Championship NES edition launches in July. Did you watch this trailer or see this at all?
I did. I left a comment here in the notes. I said, it's NES remixed with less content.
Yes. Yeah. I did order the deluxe of this because you get a gold NES cartridge with it.
Well, you get a piece of plastic shaped like an NES cartridge.
Yes, yeah. Which
you don't get this game on NES.
Yeah. So I couldn't live without it, though. So it's the first purchase. My first pre-order in Sydney is this. I will be picking it up at my local mall at EB Games.
Yeah, so I mean, what I meant was like, this has the challenge mode of NES Remix, where you're trying to do challenges, like in-game challenges as fast as you can. Like get the first mushroom in Mario Brothers or whatever, defeat Ganon, stuff like that, right? Mm-hmm. But it doesn't have the remix content, like the Bizarro remix stages that you get at NES Remix.
What it does add, though, is local multiplayer challenges, which is kind of cool, where you're playing against each other or with each other. Yeah. But only 13 games. 150 challenges, but 13 games.
I'm telling you, man, get NES Remix for the 3DS.
Oh, I have it. It's, again, on a boat in the Pacific.
Okay.
But are you going to get this regardless?
Probably not.
Really? I'm surprised by that.
Yeah. No, I'm not, because I guess maybe I'll compare to see how different it is than what's on NES Remix, but I think I already have all these challenges. And my kids, I'm like, who am I going to play online with? Like, what I mean? Like, I don't really have a bunch of buddies over to play NES games.
One thing that's kind of annoying is I don't see Rad Racer or Tetris here. So it actually doesn't have. I want the actual Nintendo World Championship. Like, I want that mode where I'm just playing those 3 games.
Yeah, but well, even NES Remix didn't have that, but it had something because Rad Racer isn't Nintendo.
Yeah, but this is called Nintendo World Championship. Like, they at the very least, it should just be that. 28K ROM, however big it is.
Yeah.
So that is a bit strange. But they already got my money.
Next is how to get a takedown letter from Nintendo in record time.
I don't know this one. So this is how to port any Nintendo 64 game to PC. And this is a static decompiler. So it takes the ROM and makes it into C code and does a few other things where for some games you don't have to do anything and you're playing it in Windows. It's really complicated. I'm excited about this project. This could be really cool. So we shall see, but it uses DirectX or Vulkan and the RT64 renderer. It does low-level API calls. So, yeah. There's already a few games coming out with it. Those will definitely get takedown letters. But I don't know I don't know what law they could use to take this down.
Well, I mean, they took down emulators with, under the same logic of, well, what do you mean emulation's fine? And they've managed to take.
Well, those emulators actually had Nintendo code in it.
Possibly, but that could be what they claim here too.
No, they did that. That's a fact. I stated a fact.
Okay.
So this doesn't have Nintendo code in it because it's just static decompiling.
Well, you're probably doing something because I'm assuming I don't know anything about Nintendo 64 cartridges, but are they not encrypted?
Oh, I don't know.
Because if they are, that's like DMCA.
Could be, yeah.
Like I don't see good things for this in the future. That's all.
Oh, I'm not saying
this gets taken down.
Yeah, Nintendo will probably come after this. Speaking of other I guess this is not a takedown. This is the opposite of what we just talked about. So, Apple, I think we reported it last time in April, that there was a RetroArch on iPhones now, but now they released it for Apple TV, which makes more sense. And my note is your Apple TV is the new Ouya.
Kinda, yeah. That's mostly what I use my Ouya for. Maybe I'll turn it into like a media, like a VLC player instead one day. But runs VLC really well, and in VLC, can play anything.
Exactly, yeah. This could play up to PSP games at the very least, they said, so that's pretty cool. I think it's Bluetooth 5 or 4 point something on this, so it should be pretty quick, pretty easy to, get a controller hooked up to it, but I don't know. It's kind of cool. It makes more sense than a phone.
Yeah, for sure.
And then Microsoft open sourced MS-DOS 4.0, the worst version of MS-DOS.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I've ever used MS-DOS 4.
I mean, most people, if they got it, they went back down to 3.3 or as quickly as possible went up to 5, right?
Yeah, I wasn't really, this is what, 84, I think it says it came out. I really wasn't using it then.
It was so bad that DR-DOS went from they didn't even...
Sorry.
They didn't even do a 4.0. They went straight to 5 because they didn't want to be associated with MS-DOS 4. But a big problem with it was a memory hog. It used 92K of RAM back then. And then also you'd be playing stuff like Doom or even like WordPerfect, and it would just lock up. So, yeah, very strange, but I don't know. It's always interesting to see that old code.
It is, and it's under an MIT license, which to me is the most fascinating part.
I don't have all that stuff memorized. What's the MIT?
MIT license is basically the most permissive license outside of just being public domain.
So you could just do whatever with it, make money off it if you want.
You could create a derivative product and charge money for it.
That's amazing.
Absolutely nothing like the way that they put out the license, nothing to stop you from doing that.
Wow. Cool. Very cool.
On the flip side, when Apple has released source code for their like old software, they do it under a explicit no commercial use license.
Okay.
They call it like research only license or something. They call it some license they invented. So it's weird. It's just, to me, like you go back like 40 years and those companies had completely 180 difference of opinion on that. You know,
yeah.
Microsoft using MIT license for anything is not something I predicted.
Yeah. Yeah. And Microsoft also, has built-in Linux and stuff like that, and they're actually committing code to the kernel. So it's strange times we live in. Kind of the big news. You want to announce this one? Kind of the big news of
do you want to talk about?
week?
You want to talk about accidentally about Space Quest accidentally having the source code on their disk?
Oh, I forgot about that one. No, let's do that one. Yeah.
So when Sierra sent out the master images to print Space Quest 2, they accidentally shipped the source code as deleted files. So they were still on the operating system, but they weren't in the file allocation table. And only now have people discovered that old code is still on the disks today.
Wow. This must have, did we just put this story up?
Yeah, Zach just added it a minute ago.
Okay, yeah. So I haven't read this one, but I am very excited about this. I would love to see original Space Quest 2 code. But now the big story of the week.
Yes. The Atari Holdings Company now owns the Intellivision brand, and the press release says 200 games.
So what's your breakdown of the 200 games? Let's walk through this.
I was kind of thinking about it. So first of all, I think this is the best possible outcome for the Intellivision brand. I mean, other than going to, like, the only better outcome is like some eccentric billionaire or even millionaire. I guess the Intellivision brand probably isn't worth much. Some eccentric person with extra money to burn buys the Intellivision brand and open sources it all. Basically makes it all public domain.
Yeah.
That's the number one best outcome from the Intellivision brand, is that it becomes public domain. Number two would be that the current Atari Holdings Company buys it because they've actually been doing good stuff with their back catalog lately. Now, they may try and make Intellivision NFTs or, Intellivision.
Oh, no, that was the old CEO. The new CEO is Digital Eclipse, pretty much. This is pretty much Digital Eclipse buying it.
Yeah, I'm not going to rule out seeing like a Running Man NFT. Like, I think it's at least plausible. But yeah, they said 200 games. I was sort of like, I don't know. I looked at Wikipedia and like all Intellivision games, including the voice games and their ECS computer. I didn't look at Gemini. I forgot to look at their not Gemini, the Aquarius computer. I didn't look at Aquarius. So it's 132. But if you take out third-party games, you're down to like 100, maybe less than 100. And the previous incarnation of Intellivision, the one owned by Tommy Tallarico, had already sold Atari the M Network games. So that takes like 10 or 12 games off the list. Mm-hmm. And then they also sold two of their, better known IPs, Astro Smash and Shark to a mobile dev company, to just a totally different company already. Mm-hmm. So Atari is not getting two franchises that people probably associate with Intellivision. You could argue it's maybe not a big deal. Like, they still have plenty of other games to go off. Astro Smash is probably the first game people think of when they think of Intellivision. I mean, again, not people like us, not people listening to this show, right? Someone's going to write in and say, "Oh, when I think of Intellivision, I think of Electric Company Math Fun first," right? Like,
yeah.
Because people like to, be weird like that. It's possible that Intellivision has released collections that included the Imagic third-party games, which makes me think that possibly, maybe they own that IP, but even that only gets you like another dozen or so games.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, who cares? It's just some hype number. It's a press release. It's a hype number.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They could have said 4 million games. No one would really know the difference. The thing I got away from this, though, is like, one, I hope they do like an Atari 50 style collection for like Intellivision and Aquarius and the Intellivision ECS. Like that would be amazing. And the other thing I put in our notes is no one is ever getting an Amico. I mean, no one was going to get one before, but definitely no one is getting one now. To me, this is about, like, you're a company about to go bankrupt, so you're selling stuff at the best price you can get it, right? Because in a bankruptcy auction, Intellivision IP is going to go for a lot less than it probably will right now.
And Atari did not buy the Amico stuff. So
of course not.
Intellivision, how it's known now, or right before Atari bought all this stuff, like now it'll be called probably Amico, and it'll be its own thing. Maybe they cut a deal where like the Amico could still have Intellivision games on it, even though it'll never release.
It may have I don't know if it'll have the games on it. I mean, it's not going to release, so I guess it doesn't really matter.
Yes.
But like all their advertising was like, this is the rich history of Intellivision and Intellivision like the console says Intellivision on the hardware designs and the controllers, like everything is branded that way, right?
Yeah.
So at a minimum, you got to take some of the $17 million that you found a way to convince people to give you and rebrand everything. And I guess we don't have a working console. It's a lot easier for you to rebrand it, being that you've never produced a single one. I mean, you produced like a prototype.
Yeah, I think like 25 demo units existed at one point.
Something like that. But like, you have the URL Intellivision.com that currently is all the Amico stuff. And there's the Amico with Intellivision written on every single part of the Amico. And the first game they're demoing is like are ripoffs of, or basically not ripoffs, they're remakes of Intellivision games. They don't look like particularly good remakes of Intellivision games, but they have pictures of them. Like this is a big rebrand effort. And chances are they're not going to do that. They're just going to file for like Chapter 11 and then, 12 months later file for Chapter 7.
I think the strangest thing about all of this is when we interviewed Burger Becky, she coded and finished, I think, 2 Amico games. And she told me on this podcast that, like, I had an Amico here. It worked. There was nothing wrong with it. Like, I don't know why they aren't selling this thing. And that's the part that's just really strange. Like, it's got to be some, like, bug in the controller that they can't sort. It's got to be something that she didn't run into. But that's just, it makes no sense that they got that far and then it just stopped.
Yeah, I mean, that's a factor. I mean, I guess, I've always been a little, you can go back and listen to my previous comments about the system, right? I don't think I've been inconsistent, where it's like, okay, I mean, if it works, okay, that's a neat idea and everything. But the idea that they, like, the basic premise is that there's not a system that's family friendly, I guess, was sort of the starting point. Like, well, the Wii was really family friendly, but now the Wii is, sitting in dumpsters or whatever. So we have to build something new. And it's like, well, no, first of all, the Wii is still a perfectly good game to play with your kids, right? If you're just interested, the idea is I have little kids and they want to play a video game, like Wii's fine. But there's also this other Nintendo system called the Switch. I assume you've heard of it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. I mean, the Switch has Minecraft and it has Mario Kart, right? Like it has games for kids. Mm-hmm. Mario Kart is a game for every. I realize the 2 I just named are suitable.
Yeah,
for
but
all
there's
ages.
Like
they happen to be games that are
stuff
popular
like
with
that.
kids.
Yeah.
Right. And they're not. There's no X-rated content in Minecraft. I mean, you could probably build it, I suppose, but there's no X-rated content in Mario Kart other than maybe like what that the person in the room next to you is saying when you hit them with a blue shell, right?
Yeah,
Like, you're basically saying, I have to create this system because there's nothing in the market that meets this need. And it's like, yeah, there is. And Nintendo has been making it for 40 years now.
yeah.
Like, has Nintendo ever made a system that wasn't family friendly? Virtual Boy, right? That's about it. Because the family can't gather on the Virtual Boy and play it.
Exactly, yeah. If I was Atari, I would have demanded that part of the IP, for no extra money, for us to do this deal, we need to own the oof noise. The Tommy T oof noise.
That he may not even have.
That he didn't even do, yeah. So wow. I mean, it was weird that, when they had Atari Age, and Atari Age was the #1 Amico hater website, and now they own Intellivision. I wonder what that did to Atari Age. I wonder what those comments were like.
Yeah, well, I mean, Atari still doesn't, I suppose probably as part of the deal, they agreed not to say anything bad about the Amigo. But certainly they don't care what happens to the Amigo.
No, it doesn't affect anyone. Yeah. Yeah. No
one's getting this thing. I'm looking like their website has been updated in 3 years. It's still like pointing. It's just the same. Like, here, pre-order this thing now, which would be a very bad time to pre-order
it. Oh, that would be a funny goof to pre-order one right now. Like, if you somehow won like $200 in the lotto, buy one of those. I mean, Atari's still selling the VCS thing that was underpowered when it launched. They're still selling.
But it exists.
It exists. Yeah, and it plays games.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw an article a while ago where someone saw a Google Stadia or Stadia, whatever, I don't care, like in the store, like they were like a Kroger or someplace like that, and they still had one on the counter. I'm like, that's a smarter investment than pre-ordering the Amico.
Yeah. I don't want a company to fail, but it's like they're trying. It's like they're trying to fail. So I have 2 questions for you about this.
Yes.
The first is, in 10, 20 years from now, after, there's only 25 of these, 20 of these, 5 of these, whatever it is, available, on eBay and stuff like that. How much do you think they'll be worth? Is it going to be a Nintendo PlayStation situation, like its derpy cousin, or
not? Well, Nintendo PlayStation, I think that sold for 6. Did it sell for 6 figures?
Yeah, it sold. It sold for a lot of money.
Yeah. I don't know how many of these are floating around. They probably do pretty well. They're not going to be 6 figures, but someone will probably list it for 5 figures. Sure.
Let's see. I want to know how much. It went for $360,000 in 2020.
Yeah, it's just a totally different thing, though. Like that's a significant piece of gaming history. It's a prototype for this Nintendo Sony collaboration that then of course led to a separate Sony. Like, it's a legitimate piece of video game history. This is a prototype of a thing that never shipped and was, I won't say it's a scam. I would say it was a very poorly thought out idea. Like, it's worth as much as the one Coleco Chameleon prototype, which is just a SNES Mini, is worth more.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, speaking of Coleco, if Atari buys the ColecoVision IP, are they a monopoly at that point? Are they a retro monopoly?
No. No, I mean, the thing is, like, being a monopoly is actually not even illegal.
Oh, I was just making a joke.
Yeah, I was always a joke. Okay, I was just thinking from like a legal standpoint, like, we can't get Ticketmaster and the event touring company separated. Like we let that go through. So, like, just simply being a monopoly, if I understand right, being a monopoly in one business is not illegal. It's using that to gain an advantage in a different line of business. So if, Atari bought Coleco, let's say, And then one day someone wanted to do a Bally Astrocade Mini. And Atari went to like all the manufacturers in China and said, if you make the Bally Astrocade Mini, we won't let you make any Atari Minis ever again.
Yeah.
Then they'd be no legal monopoly.
I still want
And
them
that
to
would
buy
be
the
the worst
Coleco.
video game drama of all time. That
Yes. It would be the best. I want them to buy the ColecoVision IP. I mean, it's 7 exclusive games and 2 of them are licensed IPs. So why not? Just pick them up.
Look, I want them to buy the TurboGrafx IP at this point, because at least they're putting out good quality stuff at the moment.
Yeah, that's not bad. Yeah.
You know,
Konami has made a good comeback, but they're not quite where they need to be.
well, they released one mini system, and then what?
The Contra collection?
But with the
Castlevania collection?
Yeah, those. I mean, with the TurboGrafx IP, have they done anything with it other than the mini? I'm not
Nothing I can
like
think of
argumentative.
offhand. No.
Yeah. And maybe that's the limit. I don't know. Maybe there's just not enough demand for a TurboGrafx 30 or whatever it would be called.
Oh, that would be great. It'd be stupid for them not to do that.
Yeah.
But that was kind of a random topic there. But we do have a real topic that's really quick.
Yeah.
It's just part 2 of video game collecting in Australia. Because part 1 would have been when we interviewed Retro Game On, which he's still making great YouTube content. So still go to YouTube and go to Retro Game On because he's great. And that interview is episode 131 for us. So I just moved here, and I have been here a lot though, and one time for a year, and it's just retro video game collecting here is just really strange. And you had your one big question I want to start with. What was that?
Yeah. Well, that Australia is geographically closer to Japan, but like culturally closer to Europe. So which one of those two wins out there?
It's really strange. It's really a mix where it's the reason why Japan doesn't win is because they're on 110 volts and NTSC in Australia is on 240 volts and PAL. So they have to do that conversion up front. Japan to America, it's so much easier because they don't have to change too much. So yeah, in Australia, they got, for the Nintendo Entertainment System, they got the US front loader style, and the box art looks like the American variant, but they got some games we didn't get and vice versa. For the Super Nintendo, they got the Super Famicom. I think they still call it the Super Nintendo, but it's a Super Famicom. And so the boxes look like that. They got, obviously the Mega Drive and not the Genesis, which again is just a name change. And the TurboGrafx looks just like the US one. They didn't get the PC Engine, but the box doesn't have the Zach Morris looking dude on it. So it's not as good. And I could be wrong, but I don't think they got like the ZX Spectrum and the BBC stuff as much as Europe did. I think they got more Apple stuff here in terms of retro computing. But again, email at retrogameclub.net if I got any of that wrong. But so is that how you felt it would have ended up in Australia?
Yeah, I thought it would mostly be European. I thought it would be more European slant in the systems, and maybe some stuff because it's easier to import from Japan than it would be, in the US. I thought maybe they'd be some Japanese stuff, but I guess I'm not surprised it really has like the American systems.
Yeah. And then purchasing retro stuff here. I mean, in the Sydney area, there's really one retro game store, gamesmen.com.au, and there's a few retro things, but it's mostly just a retro museum, which my video game collection is bigger than the retro museum in the store. But they do have a lot of cool PC stuff in there, like full car and flight sim setups, which is pretty fun to see. I've never seen that in a US store. I do have for some people here, I'm not sure if this will get in the show notes, but a photo gallery of when I went to Gamesman of their museum. And if I ever retire, that might be a fun place to work 2 days a week.
Yeah.
And then there's another place about 45 minutes away from me, just called Game Traders, and it looks like they have enough retro stock to fill maybe one display case. But everything here is on Gumtree, gumtree.com.au. It's kind of like their Craigslist, but without sex trafficking.
Okay.
And yeah,
That's a hard pass. Okay.
Yeah. So it seems a bit more legit. And I was scrolling through it last night, and there was a lot of retro stuff in there. So I think that's where you go. And it does seem like if you bought a ton of lots from Gumtree and maybe imported a pallet or two from Japan, you could be pretty successful with the retro store here. So I don't know why that hasn't happened. And this kind of solidifies the fact that I think handheld collecting is the way to go in terms of retro collecting if you're international, because you don't have to deal with NTSC or PAL. There's no voltage because everything just has a USB adapter at this point. You could get on Amazon.com, you could get a USB adapter for any system in terms of just like a power supply. So that seems like the way to go. Like 3DS, DS, Game Boy, do that stuff. And also it's really nice here. Everyone's outside. And, I think that's why in the Midwest, in the States, that's why game collecting or starting a band or becoming an alcoholic is so popular. Because 8 months out of the year, you're just inside.
Yeah, Wisconsin in particular for the last one.
Yeah. So I am not going to stop game collecting. I'm hoping I can meet some people here that are into the retro stuff and collecting too. Because I'm definitely missing out on that.
Yeah, I think you'll be able to.
I hope people here are really outdoorsy. Not as much. I'll get there. Maybe we'll see.
Yeah, and you're on the main lane. So like I had, I have this room with a bunch of video game stuff behind me, and ever since I've had to work from home, I do a lot of Zoom calls from here. And I had a coworker who grew up in Tasmania. Mm-hmm. Look at, see what I had. And he made the comment that in Tasmania, at least, there was nothing.
What do you mean?
When he was growing up. He's our age, let's say. Mm-hmm. And he's like, didn't see a single video game ever in Tasmania, was basically his comment.
Wow. I had no idea.
But that, again, this is when he was a kid, so this would have been, 30 years ago. Perhaps today, I'm actually going to go on the Google Maps right now. Tasmania.
There's got to be like an EB Games in Tasmania.
Video game stores in Tasmania.
Yeah, Hobart, there's an EB Games.
Okay, well, hold on. It, by default, went, even though I was zoomed in on Tasmania, it went back to where I am now because Google is getting worse every day.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, there's a few. There's EB Games for sure. I see a few EB Games now. Oh, there you go. I think Hobart's the biggest city down there.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have a few stores. Okay. Good Games Hobart.
Yeah, Good Games is another thing, but it's mostly card, like Magic the Gathering and board games.
Okay.
So that seems pretty big here. But we got some Game Club. I've been doing a lot of talking. You want to do yours?
Yeah, let's go ahead. It's WWF in Your House. Yes, that's what I played. Oh, those are your notes. I'm like, I didn't play the PS1 port. So I picked this as an excuse to try out my cheap Saturn HDMI adapter that I bought for like $9. Mm-hmm. Turns out it's really good. Turns out it works great. For me, this is kind of a nostalgic soft spot for me because it's the first video game of the Monday Night War era of wrestling.
Okay.
Although for like the WWF in particular, this was like the lowest point that company's ever been in. Kind of their weakest roster and definitely the worst events. It was like part of the reason for the whole WWF in Your House brand is because they couldn't sell large arenas anymore. So instead, they made it look like we're intentionally putting on shows in small places.
Oh, okay.
Right? So it's like, no, you understand, we're being hip and edgy, and we're doing like indie shows in like these little tiny things because that's our brand right now. When really it's, they couldn't sell a 10,000 seat venue anymore. Mechanically, it's basically identical to WrestleMania, the arcade game. Exact same engine. I didn't really even notice many engine changes. So it's, just a brawler game, kind of loosely inspired by Mortal Kombat in that it's digitized fighting and some of the commands are similar, but because you're moving around in a ring, it's not exactly Mortal Kombat. With every pro wrestling game, I have to do the who's alive and who's dead tally. This is actually better than the average game. It has over 50% of the cast still alive.
I didn't realize the British Bulldog was dead.
Yeah, he's dead, yeah. WrestleMania, the arcade game, is exactly 50% dead, and this is actually better than 50%. So dead is Owen Hart, British Bulldog, Vader, Ultimate Warrior, and Mr. Perfect, Kurt Hennig. And then alive would be Bret Hart, Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, Goldust, Ahmed Johnson. That's the one I was surprised. I thought he was dead, actually. Triple H, and Vince McMahon. All still alive.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, it's just a fun, beat 'em up game. Looked good on the Saturn. I have the PS1 version too, but I did not hook it up this time.
Yeah, that's the port I did, and I didn't read any instructions or anything, so I was button mashing. When he says pin, I push any button and I stomp on the person and win.
That's what
could
you do.
not sort out how to pin somebody, like an actual pin.
You don't. You don't.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, I'd still like to see the manual for this one to kind of know what I'm doing. Somehow I thought it had worse graphics than Pit Fighter.
You gotta play Pit Fighter again, but okay.
Okay, yeah, it's been a while, yeah. And this really got me thinking about how to make an actual modern wrestling game. Stuff like when you watch wrestling, one of the wrestlers will get pummeled over and over again. He's about to lose. And then he starts getting amped up and does a comeback to the point where, like, the one person, punches him in the face or whatever, and it just amps him up even more.
Right. You're describing every Hulk Hogan match ever.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So how could you get that in a game and not make it not fair to the person who is already winning? How to get that fun theatrical stuff in a wrestling game. Is it possible?
Yeah, one of the N64 games kind of did that. The was it WCW NWO Revenge and WWF No Mercy kind of did that a little bit. I don't know about the newer games. I don't really like the newer. I haven't really tried them, and I'm just not as interested in playing them. You could do that. It would be definitely be kind of hard to do. I mean, there's one of the Mortal Kombat games, maybe 3, implemented like a comeback feature. Mm-hmm. Where like you get to where your opponent gets the finish him screen, but somehow you get to come back afterwards. Could maybe do something like that. I don't know.
Or it could be like if the hitboxes are so different that it's really hard to get hurt anymore. Like that's where the amp up meter could start. Something like that.
Like an amp up meter. Yeah.
Interesting.
I always wondered why, like, during the amp up, why the other wrestler didn't just like go and like sit, out of the ring and just wait for the other guy to finish doing his amp up routine.
Exactly. Yeah.
But Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior, those were both guys that did the amp up routine.
Yeah, oh yeah. That's like you said, that was the Hulk's whole career. And then there was an unreleased 3DS port of this that looks pretty good.
Yeah, it looks all right. 3DS didn't even exist, so that's crazy to me.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, for like a decade, right?
Yeah, at least a decade. Yeah, about a decade.
So, but yeah, I thought it was an alright game. I thought it was a fun pick. I emulated it on the Steam Deck and it worked great. So it is one of like 3 PS1 games on there. And then Aaron Nanto picked Lords of Thunder. Did you have any comments on that?
Yeah, I mean, great soundtrack, but I never last more than maybe a minute. So I tried the TurboGrafx 16 CD version again because I own that. I think I own the Sega CD version too. And I still, to this day, cannot clear one stage of that game.
I could get... That's funny.
Yeah. Good soundtrack for like your workout playlist.
Oh, yeah, man. It is a stellar soundtrack. And yeah, I could get about a level and a half. And I feel like the devs from the Bang.io games must have really liked this, because Bang.io seems to pull a lot from it. Like the vertical parts and stuff like that, and how you move back and forth. But I'd just like to point out to the people who thinks the TurboGrafx can't do parallax scrolling, this has vertical and horizontal scrolling at the same time. So there you go. It exists. But I do like the game. It's just I don't play much because I'm so bad at it. It makes me feel bad. And then Mad Max. At the time, the only Australian game I could think of. And that was really the only one that was in sports on Wikipedia. And this was released, in 1990. And developed by Grey Matter, which is in Ontario, about 2 hours from my old house. And Grey Matter seems like they only did a bunch of bad licensed IP stuff. And the fact that this was released in 1990, so after Street Fighter 2, after many amazing Sega games, and have this play worse than like the NES port of Strider is crazy. I mean, debate. So let me get into the game. You drive around in what's the Mad Max car called? The Pursuit Special, in kind of an Outback type situation. You know, everyone listening to this probably knows the Mad Max situation. It's post-apocalyptic, not a lot of gas left, that kind of stuff. And you have to get enough water or something, water and other supplies, and then the other area opens up, which I think is an arena, and then you're still in your car in the arena, and you have to defeat all the other cars. And you can get out of your car and go through like these cave type systems to find some of those supplies. And I think I got further in Lords of Thunder than I did in this game. But anyway, the driving, the main part of the game, debatably, Ghostbusters has better driving. So that's not saying much. This game kind of let me down. I definitely say skip this game, especially if you have distance anxiety in cars like I do. Like my car never gets under like 3/4 of a tank of gas. That's how bad I am. You're always on empty in this. So what was your thoughts on this game?
So I said this game is really, really bad. My first impression was I'm surprised there isn't an Angry Video Game Nerd episode about it. Mm-hmm. I actually looked through all of his episodes. There has to be one for this, and there is not. I played about 5 minutes, maybe not even that much. It's awful. Ghostbusters on Master System actually I think drives okay, but the other versions aren't very good. I watched the speed run because it's not very long. And the guy with the speedrun record looks like the most depressed person on earth.
Yes.
I assume because he is currently playing this game. I mean, this looks like a guy that he's having a bad time. I'll just say that. He looks legitimately sad.
So this is like a never play it again type game, right?
Never,
like,
yeah.
Been there, done it, yeah.
Oh, yeah. But just for extra fun, I watched the tool-assisted speedrun. Mm-hmm. Where you can make it, you do see the ending screen, which I'll say ending. It's really not much. It looks worse than the main game itself.
Wow. Well,
and I don't know, because I turned the sound off after a while. Is there only one song in this whole game?
I feel like there is. You made that note, and I don't remember. Again, I didn't make it very far. But here are the other IPs that Grey Matter did. Let me know if any of these were good, if you've played them. Dirty Harry on NES.
No.
James Bond Jr. on the SNES, which I guess he had a son that he gave the same code name to. I don't know. Wayne's World on the SNES. I remember that, but I don't remember playing it.
That has an Angry Video Game Nerd episode.
Okay. The Terminator SNES.
That might have been playable. Yeah.
Incredible Crash Dummies, which I guess is like Test Crash Dummies. I don't know if that would be a IP, but I'm gonna lump it in there.
Well, they didn't. Did they develop that? That one is okay. That game is okay.
Okay. Ren and Stimpy on SNES.
Which Ren and Stimpy?
Vidiots.
No.
The Amazing Spider-Man versus Kingpin on Sega CD is not bad. I wouldn't call it good.
That's not bad. That's true. That is a good game.
Yeah. And then The Crow, City of Angels on the PlayStation and Saturn and MS-DOS.
That hasn't. Yeah, so that has an Angry Video Game Nerd episode.
Nice. And have you ever played WWF King of the Ring for NES?
Yeah. I mean, it's okay.
Well, that's pretty much their lineup. They also did Young Indiana Jones Chronicles. So, not too great. Yeah, so Mindscape did publish it, and they're good. So what do you want to play for the next episode?
Well, I'm going through my podcast bucket list here, and what did I pick? Where is it? It's Donkey Kong. I forgot where it is on the notes. Original Donkey Kong. We did the 1994 Game Boy version before. Mm-hmm. And when I say Donkey Kong, any console port or arcade version is acceptable.
Mm-hmm. I am going to do Kung Fu Master. It turns 40 this year.
Is that just Kung Fu on NES?
On NES, it's just Kung Fu. Yeah.
Okay.
So, all right. If you play Donkey Kong, Kung Fu Master, Lords of Thunder, WWF in your house, Mad Max, don't play Mad Max. If you have comments about retro collecting in Australia, or if you have a bunch of new Z80 processors, or anything else we talked about, please email us. Email at retrogameclub.net. That is email at retrogameclub.net. And we have some good feedback this episode.
Yes, which I am going to butcher because
It's been a long. It's Friday.
It's a long episode. I have a 45-minute attention span at best, so that's my problem. Majors writes in, Police Quest being obtuse. You mentioned some difficult puzzles for all the Quest games, really. He also wanted to mention JP Harold Murder Club as being a very obtuse puzzle game. With a comment about the sort of FAQ I wrote for it. Lode Runner hate mail. Don't worry about offending fans of Lode Runner. They don't have internet access anyway.
That's actually really funny and true.
That's probably true, yeah. Typos breaking databases. I mentioned that with a small amount of SQL, you could destroy a database. He used to work in a payroll office with a similar bug where it was using an old btrieve database on Novell. Oh boy, there's a report writer function that if you keyed in incorrect dates, it would wipe all the data. Nice. That's good. He also mentions being a big fan of Space Quest, and his first BBS was an ASCII Roger Wilco logo.
Nice. Very
good. Asked for a suggestion of what to do with an unused Raspberry Pi. I just mentioned earlier in the episode, but installing Pi-hole is the absolute best thing I've ever done with a Raspberry Pi. That is a network ad blocker. You, of course, can configure the list. If some sites you really love are breaking, you can, put them on the allow list.
And so you just make that your DNS, right? It doesn't filter server, yeah. You don't filter all your traffic through it.
Well, just all DNS traffic.
DNS,
Yeah. So all DNS lookups go to Pi-hole, and if you have a domain that's banned, it returns 0.0.0, right, for the DNS. Mm-hmm. And then your browser's like, oh, that, it doesn't go there. It's great. I mean, other than a lot of the internet is unusable now with it. YouTube still works and still has ads. Like, it hasn't fixed that yet, but again, I can go to weather.com and actually see the weather. And the other thing is they have lists to block, like, malicious sites. So if you click on the wrong link in Facebook, you're not going to get hit with like a ransomware attack as easily.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Stuff like that. Some people would use it to block adult sites for their kids, and my logic is, what would you prefer your kids went to adult sites at their friend's house?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, all you're teaching your kids is how to circumvent your ad blocker.
Yeah,
like,
how to lie better. Yeah.
So it's not. I don't use it for that. So whatever. That's my best use for Raspberry Pi. He talks about lack of Atari Lynx knowledge. Very disappointed, deeply disappointed that we don't have much experience with Lynx. He was one of those kids that opted for Lynx over Game Boy. Notwithstanding that he always had to play alone, his Comlink cable never got used. Hoping the new Lynx collection coming out for Switch will let everybody get a little more exposure to it. He says on that collection, California Games Blue Lightning and Todd's Slime World are the best ones.
Mm-hmm. That's about right.
As for the bat topic, he of course also says Castlevania is his least favorite bats, but also Firebrand from Ghouls and Ghosts. He's similar to a bat, at least.
Yes.
Then he had bat infestation in his old house. They're watching a movie and a bat flew out of his chimney and started flying around in circles. They managed to catch it and release him outside, but of course, bats are not solo, they're not hermits. So a couple of days later, a bad windstorm knocked all the bats down into the basement, 10 or so total.
That sounds horrible.
So it does, yeah. Again, good to have in your yard, bad to have in your house. So the Aaron Nanto interview, he mentions that he mailed a blank VHS tape to Aaron back in the 90s to record footage of a PCFX games. I mean, who else was in Alaska that had a PCFX? He remembers there were only 3 games: Battle Heat, Team Innocent, and Graduation 2. He recorded the intros and some play for each game.
That's very nice, though.
That's very nice, yeah. I would not do that. Sprite Flicker for R-Type on the TurboGrafx. He bought Sprite on the NES when it was released because of all the praise from magazines, but ended up returning it because of the flicker and overall poor quality of the game. I thought it was broken, just like TurboGrafx 16 customers that bought R-Type thought it was broken as well. Anyways, he exchanged it for Mega Man 2.
Oh, one of the best games ever.
Yes. Cash register price changes. He remembers from when he worked at Babbage's also, having the reel of paper on an 8-pin dot matrix printout with the price changes every day, which was fun. And they did have the surprise launch of the Saturn in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. He was working the Wednesday night before and also the next day when it was there. Manager at the time got the memo after he left for the night. He thinks he wanted to leave early to watch a movie with friends. So there you go.
Yeah, thank you for that email, Majors. Good to hear from you again.
Thank you.
And Andrew writes in that he's bummed to see Hugh retiring from podcasting. It was a great run, and he appreciates all the developer perspective on retro games, and that your contributions to Genesis development is much appreciated. And
well, first off, thank you for that. And I might have another Genesis demo out in the month of June, and then I'm probably going to explore doing something else.
Cool.
I don't know what yet.
Excited to hear about that.
Decided. I don't know.
That could be a topic. It could be an episode topic, maybe.
It depends. I was debating Neo Geo or Atari Jaguar. I don't know if I'll do either of those. I might decide to learn Erlang instead. I don't know.
Well, Andrew goes on to, I think he thinks you do the technical stuff for this. I can't tell if Andrew is talking about that you're more technical speaking wise, or if you do technical stuff for the podcast. I think that must be me,
because behind the scenes, I do literally no work for the show at all.
Yeah, I do the mixing, and that's why it sounds so bad, and Zach does everything else.
That's why, if anyone's interested in taking over my spot on this show and you enjoy editing, please email at retrogameclub.net. Because Rob has been doing all the editing, which is a very thankless and boring job.
It's really weird recording something and then listening to it right after. Like, I just talked about this.
I cannot do it, man. I can't listen to myself is the biggest problem.
And Andrew, thanks for that email. And Adam writes in saying some really nice things about the podcast and about my move. So, Adam, very heartfelt thank you for all those nice things you said, and about your father's stories from Australia. And from episode 169, you liked the Alien Abduction crossover magazine with video games and computers.
Good.
Yeah. I hope to find more of those. And he has an alien abduction, not an alien abduction story, but a UFO story where when he was 14, he lived in the Nevada area by Nellis Air Force Base. And he was really used to seeing jets and stuff like that all the time and seeing crazy maneuvers because that's where they tested all that stuff. But during the summer of '95, he was on a week-long scout camping trip in Lake Arrowhead, California. And they were sleeping under the stars and, looking at all that stuff. And all of a sudden, a round plane or saucer-like object was in the sky, flying really fast and stopping for like 20 or 30 seconds, and then changing direction really fast and doing some weird maneuvers and then flying away. You can't say definitively that it was of alien origin, but he's never seen maneuvers like that and stopping and going like that. And he doesn't remember hearing any noise. So it's a really cool story.
Yeah. Some kind of prototype shit, probably.
And hopefully one of those will be able to deliver 7-Eleven to my house.
Oh yeah.
That's all I want. And he really enjoyed Metroid. This is probably what did I play? Zero Mission, Metroid Zero Mission. So that's probably what this is about. He really enjoyed Metroid since the first time he played it on the NES. And he owned an SNES, but somehow never played Super Metroid. Still haven't spent much time with the game. Looking forward to playing it on Switch Online service. He owns Metroid Dread and played it a few hours. It seems like a great game that deserves more of his time. And yes, I actually think Metroid Dread is possibly the best game on the Switch. If not, it's, top 4. At the worst, it's the 4th. But I do think it might be my number 1.
Okay.
Actually, Tears of the Kingdom is probably number 1. So it's probably 2 or 3. Anyway. And then more about bats. Yep. Gotta mention Ninja Gaiden. And recently tried to beat it on the Switch, but got stuck on stage 8. And if it wasn't for the rewind feature, wouldn't have made it that far. Which I think you just mentioned on Mario Land.
Oh yeah. I would have finished Mario Land regardless, but the rewind really, really helped.
Yeah. But he said it really comes down to the bats. It just makes it so hard. And it reminds him of Super Mario 2, the Lost Levels when it comes down to difficulty. Yeah, Ninja Gaiden, that is not an easy game. There's no way around it. And then a selfish question. He wants to know if we've played Unicorn Overlord on the Switch. It's something that looks like he really likes, and developed by Vanillaware, published by Alice and Sega.
I have not. I'm sorry. It's a tactical RPG, which I've tried a couple, never really gotten into them. If it was on sale, I guess I'd be willing to give it a try, but I haven't tried it yet, no.
Yeah, I just haven't because of time. I have a lot of friends that are into it right now, so I will definitely be playing it and probably talking about it on this show. So, thank you, Adam, for that email. And we have some social feedback. Lords of Thunder, great game. It's on the TG16 Mini, which was his first time playing it. And some comments on the PC Engine Effects episode. It was a legendary forum and site. Spent better part of the 90s and 2000s buying, selling, and trading stuff on there. And I have probably interacted with you then, because I have sold and bought stuff from there. And then someone else writes in saying about East Online that as far as he knows, that actually went live in 2007 and was up for a few years, and you could still play it on some private servers. So I'm gonna have to look into that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I don't think it's what you're expecting. Like, there's an East 8 game on mobile phones in Japan. It's not what you think.
Oh, okay. So it's not the thing we talked about, because that was just a East 1 looking thing.
Yeah, it's not what you think, probably.
Okay. And then someone else writes in about a game set in Australia, Beneath a Steel Sky, which I need to try that. I forgot about that, it was not on Wikipedia too. So if you want a good Wikipedia credit, definitely add that, and I will try it because it's a point-and-click adventure, not unlike Sierra Online games. But thank you, everyone, for all that feedback. That was great. Please keep it coming. Email at retrogameclub.net. And Zach runs all our socials, so on our show notes, hit up our link tree because we're on all of them, and he will put them on here and interact with you. Because I am losing my American phone number, I'm going to be on Discord a lot. So please get on our Discord and chat. I will actually be doing that now. And in fact, since the time difference, I'm not a night person at all, and I think a lot of our listeners are, so I'll probably interact with you more. What are our new games here? Donkey Kong and Kung Fu Master.
Also just called Kung Fu for lazy people like me.
Yes. And I think that wraps it up, right?
I think so, yeah. So thanks for listening.
Thank you.